And hello, everyone. Welcome to CFW Live, which stands for Community Faith Works. It is Friday, 1:30, so you know what time it is. It's time for us to start this broadcast, CFW Live, and we're so excited to be here on today, on this great Friday. We thank God for every day that we get to wake up and breathe and live, because we know this is the day that the Lord has made. So we're going to rejoice and we're going to be glad in it. So let's get started today with a wonderful broadcast. Again, I'm excited. I'm excited every week that we have the privilege and the opportunity to do this. So for some of you, if this is your first time coming onto our live stream, you may be saying, okay, so I see Tia, I know Tia, or maybe some of you may have found us just through being on social media and you don't even know where you've landed or where you are, but we're so excited that you're here because you're in the right place at the right time. We have a full show where we're going to educate, hopefully inspire, and equip you with critical information and resources that you need to know. So if some of you are saying, okay, this is my first time on your live stream, so tell me what CFW is about. What is CFW Live? What is that about? Well, I am so glad you asked. CFW, again, stands for Community Faith Works. You're looking at pictures right now on your screen of students, but those students are actually pastors. And also in the picture, you see pastors, but you also see members of their church. And these are members that attend the pastor's church that have a mission, mind, and heart. And they want to be able to create the business of outreach. So taking social service in terms of ministry to a whole nother realm. So I created a program under our nonprofit organization, the FB Foundation, called Community Faith Works, in which we were working together to train and to develop pastors so that they could become future community economic developers, because they know their communities, they know their neighborhoods. And many of our pastors are serving in communities that are underserved. So we bring together subject matter experts, some of the best and brightest minds, to help me as we train our pastors and give them the tools and the resources that they need. You're looking at pictures now of alliances that we have with certain great community economic developers who are mission minded. For instance, Reverend Bill Stanfield with Metanoia. We're so excited that we have the opportunity to align with the concepts that he and his team have been able to build and restore in one of the North Charleston communities, and have done fabulous work for the last 15 years. You're also looking at pictures right there on your screen right now of pastors that have gone into some of those underserved communities like Metanoia in North Charleston, and they got a chance to see restoration, reformation, and transformation in communities that look just like theirs. So for some of our pastors that felt hopeless, they going through some of the training and understanding, we're starting to realize that it's not a hopeless situation in their community, that actually they could look through a different lens, be equipped with the right tools, and they can then become hopeful because of what they have in their community and in their neighborhood, and how they can start to see what may have been typically viewed as broken, less than. They can start to find the assets, the jewels, the gifts, the resources that have been in their neighborhood, and they get to partner then, because we train them on how to partner with other organizations and agencies so that they can be the superheroes and the champions of the communities that they have served and serviced for years. So that was the path that we were on with Community Faith Works, right? And then COVID-19. Okay, so that put the brakes on everything, not just for Community Faith Works, but for what everyone was doing across the world. And it's our new normal. It is our new normal. There's been, of course, devastation that has come because of this pandemic. And also, along with that, has new things have been birthed amongst leaders and new thought leaders that can lead in a time of crisis. If we look at, speaking of crisis, just the numbers in South Carolina today, I think we've got a graphic that'll show that. The numbers as of today in terms of how many COVID cases in South Carolina, that number unfortunately has reached 9,379. And we have unfortunately lost 416 people due to the virus. So because of that, I know in terms of Community Faith Works, we realized we could not just sit back and ride this out, because what does that even mean? And so we realized that while we were training pastors to go beyond the walls of their church, we needed to figure out a way to pause and pivot and go beyond the walls of the classroom. So obviously, we paused with the training because what mattered most was the pastors, making sure that their well-being was okay, and then the well-being also of their ministry and their neighborhoods. So what we actually formed, our community faith works team, we partnered with AmeriCorps, South Carolina AmeriCorps, and other state agencies like South Carolina Minority Affairs Commission, and et cetera, and created what is now called the CFW, which stands for Community Faith Works Care Response Team. What you're looking at right there is an image with some superheroes, and we're inspired every time we see this picture. This actually was one of our classroom shots where we took pictures of the pastor's members that were helping them to form a nonprofit, kind of that social service entity that is outside of their ministry. And so they are the superheroes that really have that heart for their communities and their neighborhoods. And so we're inspired by this picture, and we realized that we could put our capes on as well, and again, go beyond the classroom and create a care response team. And within that care response team, we've built, a website that we list with resources and information. We have our social media page. We also, within that care response team, we also built out this broadcast that comes on every Friday from 1:30 until 2, where we bring on subject matter experts and those who have knowledge of how to help link our most vulnerable communities and populations to the resources that they needed. So COVID-19 will not stop what we're doing. And so we're so very thankful for all of the alliances and partners and even the experts that come on every single week to make sure that you get informed and the information that you need. So that's the care response team. And I want to make sure that I stay on track here because we pack it in within those 30 minutes. We have a very, very, very good show for you on today because I have some great guests. In fact, and I want to make sure I say their names correctly. So my producer said, try saying it 5 times. I don't think I'll say it five, but maybe about 3 times, because I really want to make sure that I invite them in correctly because I'm so grateful that they're here and they're going to be sharing some information. But we have Tristan Brewer, who's the legislative director for Representative Joe Cunningham. And I believe Tristan is housed in Washington, D.C. He has some South Carolina roots, though. And also Christian Bastian. She's a South Carolina Origins Grant and Operation Director. She definitely is a favorite of ours, and we're so thankful that she can come back on each week. But what we're going to be talking about here shortly is housing and rental assistance during COVID-19. So we're going to be talking with them in just a minute. But I have to mention, if you check out our website, you'll be able to see additional information that we'll get from them and also place on our website. But we call this our resource roundup that you'll see on our website. If you go to communityfaithworks.org, you'll see a running list of resources that we're updating and putting on our site to make sure that you have the latest information. And certainly, if there's additional things that we can add, please reach out and let us know. But that's our resource roundup with the latest information. You'll see this is a screenshot of our website. There's other images of our website as well. And again, we'll post the latest information. On the congregants and community page, you'll see housing resources, financial resources, educational resources. The list goes on. We're continuously adding additional information. So again, you've got the most relevant information that can help serve our vulnerable communities to make sure you get the information that is needed. But first, one of the things I want to bring up before we actually bring on our guest, we're talking about these changes that we're going through. We're talking about this new norm. We're talking about pandemics. Of course, all about that. You've been living through it. My producer's trying to remind me, both my producers trying to remind me, like, don't forget to tell them it's Friday at 1:30. So yes, Friday at 1:30 is when we broadcast live every single week. So please invite and share with other people so they can come on, they can tune in, and also spread the word about resources and information that we're gathering for our community. So make sure you do that. Thanks, Joy. Thanks, Rena. So, as I was saying, we know that we're living through a very serious and critical time. We have some lighthearted moments on the show, but we know this is very serious. And so we want to continue to keep your spirits lifted to keep you inspired, to empower you. And so what we've created what is actually something that's called the FaithWorks moment. And this is where we get to connect with one of our great pastors that's been a part of our community FaithWorks program or preparing to go through the program, and other pastors that can just bring us moments of inspiration and empower us and help us to see beyond where we may be. So I'm so honored that I have such an awesome pastor and leader, businessman, and family man, none other than Pastor Abraham Belanger. And he's with First Fruits Community Church in Summerville, South Carolina. And he has our FaithWorks moment. Hey, Pastor.
Hey, Tia, thank you so much. I'm glad to see you today and so encouraged by what you are doing. I want to share with everybody a quote that I read many, many years back that has stuck with me ever since. The quote says, "Two men looked through prison bars. One saw mud, the other stars." You know, one of the constants in life is change. And when change comes unexpectedly, we all have a choice on how we respond to that change. You know, our response is also based off how we see things. And how we see things is called a word called perspective, right? So, my question for you today is, how do you see what's going on? You know, are you currently looking at the muddy waters of this COVID virus that has separated us from each other and gathering in person as something that has just kept us away from each other? Or do you see this as an opportunity to engage with people online virtually, whether it's through Facebook or other social media platforms? Maybe you've lost some financial income during this time too. I know many people that have. You know, do you see this as a situation where you are lacking, or do you see this as an opportunity to maybe start that new business that you've been wanting to start but just haven't had the time to do it, right? It's all about how we see what's going on and our response. And when we respond the right way, then guess what? Our response is going to determine where we end up. And so I think about a scripture out of Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. It says, "Now faith," not tomorrow faith, not last week's faith, but right now faith, right now confidence, right now trust in God. That is the substance of things hoped for. It is the evidence of things not seen. And so today I want to encourage you to see through the lens of faith. Understand that with God, all things are possible. And this is truly an opportunity to reach for the stars and go for what you want. This has been your FaithWorks moment. I'm Pastor Abraham Belanger. God bless you.
God bless you. Every time I hear Pastor Abraham, I feel like I can leap. I love how you put things into the proper perspective. Thank you so much, Pastor, for joining us. You got to come back. You definitely have to come back. He's definitely someone that we love and admire dearly. And we need that moment of inspiration because some of the information that, we're going to talk about it can be a little heavy, but we want to be able to equip you and inform you so that it can help through the grace of God lift some of the heaviness that you may feel. This is definitely this is temporary. It will not last always. And so we're thankful for our guests that are going to be joining us. You know, I look back over some of my notes here and some of the things that we want to talk about under the housing and rental assistance during COVID-19 will address some of these pressing concerns. I saw some latest stats, and it says in a recent report, 3.6 million, in fact, we can pull that full screen, 3.6 million homeowners are past due on their mortgage payments. Now, this is as the end of April. We can keep that slide up there. 3.6 million homeowners are past due on their mortgage payments as the end of April. And as of just last week, South Carolina Chief Justice Beatty lifted the statewide moratorium for renters, which means statewide eviction notices were filed beginning last Friday, which was May 15th. To help us navigate through some of these housing challenges, I have two great guests that are joining me today. Tristan Brewer, who's the legislative director for Representative Joe Cunningham. And also I have Christian Bastian, who's the South Carolina Origins Grants and Operation Director. I just want to share a little bit about who they are. I have a quick bio. They've done such great work in communities. Tristan serves as the legislative director for Congressman Joe Cunningham, where he leads the congressman's legislative priorities and team. And prior to taking this role, he served as the director of policy and advocacy for the National Housing Conference. His legislative portfolio for Congressman Cunningham includes housing, transportation, infrastructure, civil rights, criminal justice, and government operations. We also have Kristen. She is the Grants and Operation Director at Origin SC, which is located in North Charleston. And she's been at this agency for 10 years now. She has focused and continues to focus on the financial education and consumer credit counseling programs for the past 8 years at least. And as a licensed credit counselor, she holds counseling certifications for home ownership, foreclosure, intervention, student loans, and has recently shifted into grants management and operations for the entire agency. In fact, the last time we had Kristen on, you saw a white wall where she had all these dates that she was trying to keep up with because she's overseeing a lot of the grants. Many of those resources go out into the community to help the community. So we're going to talk about that in just a second as well. I thank both my guests for being on. Hello to you, Kristen, Tristan. Okay, we've got Tristan up top, Kristen down below. Hello to you.
It'll get quite confusing.
Right. But we're going to hold it together. So my first question is actually for you, Tristan. So you heard me mention just a few moments ago that 3.6 million homeowners are past due on their mortgage payments as of the end of April. It also, in some stats, we saw many homeowners throughout the country and here in South Carolina have reached close to the end of their forbearance if they're not already at the end. And then also that statewide moratorium was lifted as of last Friday. So, we know that, statewide eviction notices are being filed and have already started. From a legislative standpoint, can you explain what's next for these cash-strapped homeowners under the CARES Act?
Definitely, and thank you, Tia, for the invitation. Happy to be on with my fellow Kristen colleague. So we are looking at a couple of different things. You put out some astonishing numbers, and it shows how important it is for us to focus on not just homeowners but renters at the same time. We don't want to see the homeless rate go up, and we don't want to see the foreclosure rate go up just because of this crisis. The unfortunate part is that this crisis is not going away quickly. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some recovery. And so what we did in Congress was we passed the CARES Act. And what the CARES Act does is addresses home ownership as well as rental fees as well. I'll say this to the viewers, that anyone who is experiencing difficulty paying their mortgage, they should reach out to their mortgage servicer or their bank. Do that now. Don't wait until you get to the end of the month and trying to figure out how you're going to pay it if you're going to have enough money. Talk to them now and give them a call now. We know that mortgage is not the only thing. Utilities is a huge issue as well. And so being able to address your utilities at the same time is very important. So call your utility companies and have that conversation with them now as well. But as far as CARES, what we passed was we extended the mortgage forbearance for up to a year. So you're able to call and you're able to have your mortgage get a forbearance for a year. That includes the fees as well as the interest rate. And so you can have that for up to a year. The eviction moratorium on the foreclosure moratorium, I will say, is up to 4 months. And so you can't file for foreclosure. Bank can't file foreclosure now. They have 4 months. They have to wait for it. And so you can't be put out on the street immediately. What I will say is for those, and I know Kristen's going to talk this about the renters, for those who have multifamily units, those who have, who own or have a mortgage on the large properties, you're able to also get a forbearance for up to 90 days. And you have to, of course, halt your evictions on those developments for up to those 90 days, as well as up to 4 months as well. And so that's what CARES Act did back in March. We're hoping that we're coming back to Congress to address it again because we assumed that we would be out of the woods, but we're not. And so we're going to have to extend that a little bit further than what we expected before. But right now, those individuals who are experiencing difficulties paying or need to address their mortgage, they need to call their mortgage servicer today. And have a conversation and say, I cannot pay, but I know that Congress passed laws to where I don't have to pay for, up to a year. How can I have that program? How can I take part in that program as well?
That's some very, very good advice. And then also document everything, who you spoke to,
Please.
keep up with all that information, because I know this is so fluid. There's so many changes that's happening. Everything is happening so fast. So it really is going to be up to that homeowner to be their best advocate and champion and be on top of communicating with their mortgage company. Very, very good advice, and so we're very grateful for the CARES Act and the pause, the moment that it can give us, but you have to be vigilant. You have to be on top of that. Now, for Kristen, I know that, we had that statewide, moratorium that was lifted. In terms of the renters, what kind of resources, and I believe you also have resources for homeowners as well. Let's talk about the resources that you have through Origin SC and what is that process like?
Sure, absolutely. We have funding from the state. We also have some funding from the County of Charleston, the City of Charleston, Trident United Way, and it is specifically for rent assistance, utility payments, and we can use that money for mortgage payments, which is not normal for these types of funds, but because of the unprecedented situation that we're in, we are allowed to use those funds to help homeowners as well as renters. We have an intake process, so we've got case managers that are ready and doing their screenings virtually, so we don't have to have folks, put themselves into situations where they might, expose themselves unnecessarily. And we have that application on our website, and we also have a phone number for folks to call and leave a message to get started with that screening process. And that is 843-628-2301.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the financial resource, is there kind of a cap, or is there the average amount that someone can apply for? How does that work?
It depends mostly on their situation. Typically for rent and mortgage assistance, we can help for up to 3 months. So it is very short-term emergency financial assistance. That doesn't mean that folks can't come back, and we might have other pools of money that we can pull from. So we don't want folks to assume that they may not qualify because they've worked with us in the past, or they've never contacted an agency such as Origin for this type of assistance. We know that a lot of folks who haven't been in situations like this before are now facing this kind of situation. And I don't want folks to be afraid or assume that they may not qualify because we have different money pools that we're able to put folks into the right program that better suits them. And if we don't have the resources, we know other folks that do, so we can point them in the right direction.
That is wonderful. And your agency helps to support people statewide, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is definitely good to know. Now, Tristan, are you familiar with or have you heard about, because I was looking up some other options as well, mortgage payment deferral. Are you familiar with that? So I was trying to read up on this, and apparently this is another solution to help cash-strapped mortgage holders officially, and it'll become available January 1, 2021. But I saw that it mentioned that servicers are encouraged to begin evaluating borrowers as early as July 1, 2020. So that seems to be, a helpful potential option, and it's called the payment deferral option. And apparently, it is a joint alliance and partnership with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and it's under the direction of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. And I wondered, have you heard about that?
So yes. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are under federal control. We control, ever since the financial crisis of 2009. We've taken over control of those mortgage servicers. What the Federal Reserve did with Chairman Powell, he provided more liquidity to the mortgage services to say you can cover your setbacks now financially, and that way you can offer more of a deferral to those mortgage holders in the long run. He's continued to decrease the interest rate across the board, and so that again provides more liquidity for the banks. What the program, the mortgage payment deferral program that you're describing does, it allows those individuals who have federally backed mortgages through Fannie and Freddie to call over again, same program, and say, look, I need to defer my payments and put them on the back end, rather than me say that I can't pay it for 3 months, and then all of a sudden you have 3 months of a mortgage that's due when the fourth month comes in. What that does is put those 3 months or those 6 months on the back end of your mortgage, rather than having it to say I now have to pay those 3 months back when my 90 days is now up of my forbearance. And so that's the deferral program that Fannie and Freddie have put into place, and a lot of banks have put that into place as well.
Yeah, well, it seems like it could be another potential helpful option. So that is definitely good to know, and for people to understand that this is not forgivable. So it's
Right.
added
Exactly.
to the on the back end, as you mentioned. I think something that's also important, Tristan and Kristen, is the fact that education is important. Like, you have to be able to educate yourself on what is available, what it's going to mean, what are the consequences potentially. And for some of those who are still in a position to pay your rent, to pay your mortgage, you are encouraged to do this, because it's definitely not a holiday or a pass, because those monies have to be paid in some way, form, or fashion, whatever assistance and support, unless you're getting similar to what Kristen talked about, financial assistance in terms of paying your rent. But even with that, if you're able to still maintain and keep up, and this gives you a little bit of a break to just catch your breath, you're encouraged to definitely do that. And I'm grateful that through Kristen's organization, there's some education and counseling sessions that go forth. Kristen, we have about 3 minutes left. Can you share really quickly if you have seen perhaps an uptick in people calling in, especially now that the moratorium was lifted for renters?
Yes, we're seeing a huge increase in people calling for financial assistance. And folks are actually trying to be proactive and calling and saying, I can't pay my June rent. Can you help me? And so for those folks, we can't go ahead and pay rent that hasn't been missed yet, but we are keeping track of them, encouraging them to call back and let us know again. Then we'll be able to assist at that time. But we have seen an increase in all of that. And for folks that are just unsure on what to do and what may be the best solution, or they're afraid to call their lender themselves to ask for the mortgage payment deferrals and so forth, we have great experience in working with mortgage lenders. We did a lot of that same work back in the previous crisis, housing crisis. And so we know what lenders want, what they're looking for, and know the right questions to ask for those. So we're here as a resource, and we want to be helpful.
That is very good. Well, both of you are very helpful. We thank God definitely that you both were on and are educating our audience and our viewers. And then people share this and the replay continues. So we're thankful. Thank you both for being on. I've got to have both of you back. It feels like the Kristen and the Tristan team. So thank you so much for being on. We appreciate
Looking forward
that.
to it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. And I know as folks are looking at resources, you heard Kristen also mention, Tristan mentioned under the CARES Act, what's available for people. You also heard Kristen mention that through her organization, Origin SC, they're able to provide utility rent, even some mortgage assistance as well. So we have a screen that we want to show you with some other agencies that can also assist you. We want to continue to pull together critical information that you can use. For additional housing resources, you can also check out Palmetto Community Action Partnership and SC Thrive, because they also, similar to Origin, can help provide with some rental assistance and utility assistance. And so we're thankful for those alliances and those agencies that exist. We have a great show coming up next Friday. In fact, we want to be able to talk about college students and resources that could be available for them under the CARES Act. So this is going to be coming up on next week, Friday. We're going to touch on education. So we certainly invite you to come back. We're so grateful that you were joining us here today. So again, next Friday, we're going to focus on those college students. We haven't forgotten about you. We're going to talk about you as well, and to make sure you have resources that can help assist you. Please, we can't wait to see you back here on next Friday. Make sure and share this broadcast with other people. Thank you so much for being on CFW Live. Enjoy your Friday.